Hello everyone, Max is here, and welcome back to the channel. We got some amazing Pokemon news yesterday at the Switch Direct. I'm sorry I didn't make this yesterday, some problems came up in recording the original version of it, I had my unnamed editor doing a sort of duo commentary with it, but we had some audio imbalance issues, and we decided to scrap it. We're going to go to the old style of me just doing it solo. So before we start talking about the Shield and Sword expansions, we're going to be talking about something not Shield and Sword, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX. I actually never played the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Teams until many, many years later. I, for the first time, actually played it about 7 or 8 years ago, and by that point, I'd already played Time Darkness and Sky and think those were just the best games, and I didn't exactly have a super high opinion of Red Rescue Team, but it wasn't horrible. I look forward to seeing this, mostly because it looks like there's going to be more than just Gen 1 through 3 Pokemon. You saw Lucario there, and it looked like it was part of your team, or at least something that you can battle against or have in your party. It says using Aura Sphere in a dungeon. There was Mega Charizard X in a dungeon, so we might also have Mega Evolutions. I think we might be seeing more Pokemon. They don't want to show everything yet, because I'm hoping it isn't just a 1-to-1 remake with upscaled graphics, because in some of the other games they've done, I know in Samus Returns, the DX version of that, or whatever it was called, they did add a couple of extra things. They added a boss fight at the end with Ridley, and I know they did change a couple things and add some things. So I'm hoping that that's what they do for Red and Blue Rescue Team when they make this DX version of it. Now, on to the really important thing. The Shield and Sword news. Oh boy, this is good. 200 plus old Pokemon are returning. On the list of returning Pokemon includes Garchomp, my unnamed editor's favorite Pokemon Lycanroc, my personal favorite Pokemon Metagross, and a lot of other Pokemon like Aurorus, Kingdra, Chansey, and even things like Cryogonal and Volcarona. I was definitely someone who was a lot more optimistic about the National Dex cuts and thinking maybe it is a good thing that some of these Pokemon did get left out for competitive reasons and just old favorites that maybe were good before but just got overshadowed having a bit of a chance to shine now. I'm glad that this did happen, but I do admit I would have liked to see some old Pokemon returning, and do think that the experiences of having new options opened up and just experimenting was definitely great. But again, I do like my old favorites, and I would like to have them back, but wasn't the most broken up about them not being present. Among many of the other returning Pokemon, we have Venusaur and Blastoise finally. They also got G-Maxes, a lot like Charizard, so I'm glad Charizard's not just getting the, oh, Charizard gets the special treatment like always. I will say, though, I'm not a fan of the Venusaur Gigantamax. I'm a big fan of its regular form. And also, Gigantamax. I cannot get over that pronunciation. Just a little side here. I prefer Gigantamax, just Gigantamax. That pronunciation bothers me. But G-Max Blastoise, I think, looks pretty cool. I am very much looking forward to seeing how you're going to get these Pokemon, because I hope that they actually make you work for them, not just, oh, here you're starting this thing, here's your... Actually, I gotta take that back. I think that it actually would work well if they just kind of give you the starter, because there are 2 expansions. Also, new G-Maxes, the starters. I had a feeling at some point the starters were going to get G-Max forms, but I thought it was going to be coming in Shield and Sword 2, which, I'm going to get into this a bit later, apparently might not even exist. So, you know, you're Inteleon, you made the story playthrough with, your Cinderace or Rillaboom that you battled and defeated Leon, Eternatus, and beat the game with. I'm not sure if you will be able to, in some way, give them the G-Max form. My editor and I were talking and thinking, well, what if they made some sort of rare G-Max candy like there's Dynamax candy, and that it's a rare raid reward that you can give your Pokemon, and it lets them not just Dynamax, but it makes them go into their Gigantamax form. Or maybe they change the way Gigantamaxing works. Because one issue I have heard people say with Gigantamaxing, it makes getting, say, specific IV combinations, such as, say, No Speed G-Max Charizard, G-Max Snorlax, almost impossible. And I can definitely understand this. Speaking of old Pokemon getting new forms, Galarian Slowpoke. I gotta admit, I'm not a big fan of Slowpoke and really just can't do things in general, but I kinda think this thing is pretty funny. It's not part water, it's just pure psychic. And it's shiny, also looks like a lemon. But on a more serious note, I like this thing. Introducing new Galarian forms midway through, not really the generation, but almost midway through the life of the first game, I like this. It reminds me a bit of how in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon you had Poipole, Naganadel, Blacephalon, and Stakataka, which weren't in original Sun and Moon. I like how they are introducing new things into the game even after release, because it does always leave it open to, hey, here's a non-mythical, non-event thing that's actually pretty cool and pretty interesting. It might not be the greatest thing in the world, Galarian Slowpoke, but you can get it right now, and while you might not be able to evolve it at present, it's a little novelty to get. How to evolve Galarian Slowpoke into presumably Galarian Slowbro or Galarian Slowking, you can actually not do that right now. They require items that are found on the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. These are the two new expansion packs, and ones I'm actually very much looking forward to. Now, the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, I love these two ideas. Both of them have already been confirmed to be more or less the wild area, where you have complete camera control and you can freely move it around as you want. That's going to be awesome. If it's even half as good as the wild area is in terms of just layout and everything you can do in there, this is going to be amazing. And from the looks of it, these are going to be almost as if you're playing another small portion of the story inside of what is the wild area. These are both a single $30 bundle pack, which I think is great. I know a lot of people who aren't exactly the biggest fans of this because they're saying, oh, $90 for a finished Pokemon game. We've never had to pay, prices like this for a Pokemon game before. But I would refer you to a previous statement I made. That is the special version. It seems as though the special version is something that is being either done away with, or they're not going to be making a samey type game with maybe a few changes here and there, and then releasing it the next year for a full $60. This is a $30 expansion for the pre-existing game that has more or less what I would expect a special version of Shield and Sword, Shield and Sword 2 if you will, to have in it. So $90 compared to $160. Yeah, I'll take the expansion. Because I think they've realized at this point, pretty much making a game and then putting it output a samey game a couple, the next year with maybe a few minor changes, people aren't exactly the biggest fan of that. The Dex expansion is actually not limited to downloading these packs. There's a free update where you can send your Pokemon in through Pokemon Home and also receive them by trades from other people, even if you don't buy the expansion. So you don't have to buy the DLC to get the Pokemon. I know a lot of people were thinking, oh, the coding for the Pokemon is in the game, but they're going to lock it all behind DLC you have to pay for. You have to pay to get your Pokemon. No, you don't. You just have to download this. You have to just download the new update, and you can put your Pokemon in as soon as Pokemon Home comes out, as long as they are within the list of allowed Pokemon, which I'm okay with. If you don't want to play the expansion, that's fine. If you want your old Pokemon, you don't have to buy it. But as for the places themselves, I actually got in a big segue right there. The Isle of Armor is, well, a dojo. You're going to be training there, battling, and you have version-exclusive rivals, a Poison-type specialist and a Psychic-type specialist. This is one thing I'm not fond of. Mostly because they are exclusive rivals, and I generally don't like exclusive things a whole lot. I mean, exclusive legendaries, that's kind of a given, but kind of exclusive trainer battles, not the biggest fan of. I hope that you maybe get to do something that you don't just have, oh, you can only battle them here and that's it. Maybe there are only the exclusive rival is the only exclusive thing, which it seems like that so far. It seems like there is only this exclusive rival battle. are the differences. One specializes in poison, the other specializes in psychic, as I've already mentioned. And I'm not the biggest fan of the psychic one, mostly because we already had Beedee, and Beedee specialized in psychic types before Opal turned him into a fairy specialist, so kind of mixed on that. I mean, at the very least, if they do make her a psychic specialist, I hope they give her different psychic types. You know, that she's not pretty much just using 3 fairy psychic types like Beedee did. The poison one, there's a lot of interesting poison types. The closest thing you can really compare is kind of Marnie or Pierce, but even then, they really focus on dark types a bit more, and kind of had poison types there for reasons, but again, I like the poison one a bit more. The dojo, you're actually going to be training and battling under the wing of Leon's former mentor, Mustard. From the first second I saw this guy, I was thinking, this guy looks like a freaking creep. I mean, his name is Mustard, as my unnamed editor said, and my editor actually said he reminds him of the creepy old man from Dragon Ball Z who he can't remember the name of. Do with that what you will. I kind of like the idea because he is both Leon's mentor and a former Galarian champion himself. I like how they are sort of acknowledging the sort of succession of champions as the games have gone on, because we've had, you know, you becoming the champion in Sun and Moon, the first champion of Alola. You have Leon, and then in this game is really the first one where you see the succession of champions, where Leon acknowledges you are now the champion, and a lot of characters refer to you as the champion. That did start a bit in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, and a bit in Black and White where you see the changes. I know that I haven't played Black 2 White 2 yet, but I know that there are changes that happen because it is 3 years later, and I do like seeing that sort of progression of time. It makes you feel like, yes, there is progress happening, and I like this. So you get to train under the wing of this former Galarian champion, and you will be receiving a new legendary Pokemon, Kubfu. This can evolve into either 2 different forms of its final stage, Urshifu, both of which have a G-Max and have different G-Max moves and learn different moves, as well as have different typings. There is Urshifu Single Strike technique, which is a Dark and Fighting type. Sounds pretty cool. And then there is Urshifu Rapid Strike technique, which is a Water Fighting type. Both of them have different moves, and you will only be able to evolve them upon completion of the Isle of Armor dojo story, which I like. I have a feeling that maybe it's going to be you have to go through some battles or some dungeons, and either you get an item to evolve it, or you go to a certain location to evolve it. I was talking about this with my editor. Maybe they have a way to change between the 2 of them. Maybe if you want one and then decide maybe you don't want it and you want to change to the other. We were thinking maybe they do something like that, a bit like how you have the drives for Genesect. But I'm thinking they would probably not have that. It seems a bit more like Toxtricity or Lycanroc, where it stays locked in one form, which I'd be okay with. I'd be okay with either of them. It looks interesting, and I would like to see how it plays. And again, I do like how they have this little sort of kung fu bear cub thing at the dojo, where you're training at a dojo to become stronger, and you're having this little cub Pokemon that is training to become a bigger, stronger version of itself. I like that. I think it's pretty cool. Now, the Crown Tundra is where things, I feel, get much, much more interesting. I've already said these are going to be free camera. You can move it around like the wild area, and I remember talking this over. This place reminds him from like the first glimpse he had. He said this reminds him of Breath of the Wild. And I just thought, if this thing is even 1/16th as awesome as Breath of the Wild is, this on its own could like be worth it. Because from the looks of it, the Crown Tundra is almost devoid of large settlements, and that you're going to be almost exploring it with this exploration team. You're going to be leading this, well, they say you're going to be leading an exploration team. And I don't know how many of you know this, but it reminds me a bit of Xenoblade Chronicles, where you have the first excursion to Valak Mountain, where you just have this big open snow area where you're going on this expedition and helping some other people solve some things, and you have some old ruins there. It really reminds me of that mixed with Breath of the Wild. And if it's anything, even like, again, 1/16th like those things. This is going to be awesome. We have 2 new Regis. These are not Galarian form Regis. One looks like it is an electric type, and one looks like it is a dragon type. There's no way they can say, oh, well, it's Galarian Registeel because it's electric now. No, it's going to be probably Regielektric and probably Regidraco or something like that. I think this looks really cool. Unfortunately, we aren't going to have access to the greatest of all Regis, Regifils-Ami, but there can only be one great Regi, and for Regigigas to be great this generation, he must have had to step down. He will always be the true master of the Regi Quintet, Hextet now, because there's like 6 of them. And also, speaking of the old Regis, you will be able to get them apparently, because there's little concept drawings that shows arrows pointing to them to different ruins. So you're going to be able to get the Regis and Regigigas. That's pretty cool. Then there's also this sort of half split down the middle temple. One side is yellow, the other side is red. Presumably this is where you're going to find the other 2 Regis, and I don't know as of yet if they're going to be having them version exclusives or both are going to be obtainable in the same file. Maybe they're going to be exclusives, which wouldn't surprise me. You can get, say, maybe 2 of them in one, and then 2 of them in the other you have to trade. It would make sense, considering they have done things like that in previous games. But either way, I'm looking forward to this. It looks pretty cool. The whole idea of just exploring this frozen tundra area. I love the look of this thing. It looks beautiful. There's not just these ruins and this new Regi thing to explore. There's a new legendary called Calyrex. I'm not exactly fond of this thing. It kind of reminds me of like a Xerneas that's floating in the air with the giant inflatable head, because like this weird deer-looking thing. It's Grass Psychic, which, I mean, we've seen this typing before, so I'm not super impressed by it, but I'm a bit cautiously optimistic to see what this thing is going to be like, and if it's going to be, you know, in part of it says that it was the ruler of a portion of Galar in the past. I'm wondering if this is going to have something to do with maybe Eternatus, because it is Psychic and Grass, and Psychic is good against Poison, but Poison is good against Grass. And because it was a portion of Galar, maybe it was this specific portion, or maybe it was a portion that Eternatus showed up. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It could be interesting, it could not be interesting, but I'm interested. I am cautiously optimistic about this thing. And now onto some more interesting parts about legendaries. Now, there was a big sort of splash across the screen of all the legendaries, barring a few of them, namely the Kanto legendary birds, and the Therian forms of the Gen 5 Forces of Nature. We knew that the legendaries, some of them at least, were in the coding beforehand. Now we know all of them are coming back. And there are raid dens in the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra. However, the difference with the Crown Tundras is apparently you can go into the raid dens. Presumably, this is going to be how you're going to be able to see the legendaries in these dens and show moving around and see them Dynamax right before your eyes. So it's not going to be, oh, walk up to a giant pillar of light and boom, your raid Palkia, your raid Zekrom, your raid Solgaleo is right there for you. It almost seems like it's a bit of a side quest, a little short side quest to go and get these things. I'm hoping it's nothing like the Ultra Wormholes in Ultra Sun and Moon. I hope it is nothing like those. I spent 6 hours looking for Kyogre. I hope it is nothing like those. Either way, I'm thinking this looks pretty cool, because going inside the raid dens, these all look like they're going to be mini dungeons with maybe their own mini side quests. Even if it's maybe like a 20-minute thing to go, maybe like a 20-minute puzzle, 20-minute dungeon, something to solve legendaries. That's a lot. That's actually going to be pretty expensive. That's going to be pretty interesting, pretty cool just to do all of that, and then at the end, you get a legendary. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to this. And hopefully, I hope it's not just a one-time thing. I mean, it would make sense if they are sort of one-time things, because they're legendaries, and that's generally the way legendaries are. But again, optimistic. I'm hoping it's going to be really good, really well done. I think it will be well done. They've done very well with this game so far. I'm optimistic. As of yet, we don't know if the exclusives are maybe 100 are exclusive to one island and the other 100 are exclusive to the other island, which I would imagine that's probably how things are going to be. It's not because, again, they're two very different areas. The Isle of Armor looks a lot warmer, you know, it's not covered with snow, and the Crown Tundra is, well, a tundra. I remember my editor telling me yesterday, he remembered saying and thinking, they're in the UK, but there's no islands, there's no Scotland anywhere, and yeah, it looks like we're getting that. I think that this isn't just the only expansion for the game. It seems to be implied that there are further expansions down the road for the game, because again, the British Islands are, well, just that. Islands. They can realistically make so much with these things. I'm hoping with things like the Isle of Armor, or in the future, if they do release anything more, we get something a bit like the Orange Islands, the part of the anime between Johto and Kanto, where you had sort of 4 different gyms. They also had their own league, and it was a bit disconnected from the Kanto or Johto Pokemon League. In the same way, I hope that the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra aren't completely tethered to Galar. They have their own sort of independent story, their own sort of independent challenges and trials to complete, which it seems like that's going to be the case. So I think that this is going to be good. I've said that a lot, but I truly think that. With the whole, speaking of legendary Pokemon, Galarian legendaries. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Kanto Pokemon, but the Kanto legendary birds getting Galarian forms, I think this is pretty cool. I really, really hope they give these things new type combinations. I don't know, I kind of want them to keep the electric, ice, or fire typing, and, you know, maybe give them, say, like a dark type, because they look like they're dark types, and someone said, well, Articuno kind of looks like a bit of a steel type, which I could definitely see that. I hope they give them new type combinations. Maybe they make them part dark, or they give them some ability that gives them a dark type pseudo stab in the same way that, say, Steelworker is for Dhelmise, where maybe they get some sort of dark aura ability. I mean, dark auras, I know they're already thing with Yveltal, but maybe sort of, you know, yeah, like, they're really going like they had this dark aura where they get boosted to dark, because they look like dark. Like, you look at Moltres, that thing looks like fire type, it looks like dark type, it looks like flying type, it's the bird. I hope they don't just say, oh, well, they're still fire flying, electric flying, ice flying, and maybe just reorganize that a little bit. I hope these are different type combinations, they're drastically different. I do hope, however, whatever they do with Articuno, I hope they at least make this thing a good special attacker. I feel like Articuno's kind of been, like, the worst of the legendary birds consistently, aside from Gen 1 where that's really good. Just because it's ice flying, it's just defensive in nature. That's not really good on a legendary, unless you're, say, like Suicune. But I'm hoping this thing gets to be really cool, because I love the designs of all 3 of them. Articuno looks slick, Zapdos looks amazing, and Moltres knocked out of the park. I think these are great. I don't think we're going to be getting any more Galarian Kanto legendaries, or, well, any Galarian legendaries, period. But I like this. Great, great idea. Now as for just a little miscellaneous thing or two, new clothes. There are a lot of new outfits that have been added, and a couple in particular I really like. You can get to see Marnie's outfit on the female protagonist Gloria. You can see Gets' eye patch, the visor Lysander had when you faced him at X and Y at the end, and just a couple of other miscellaneous new outfits like Sherman Rose, which I think is awesome. I like how they added new outfits and they make you able to dress up like these other characters. I am hoping that they do add sort of the protagonist from other games' outfits, because I think that Gloria and Victor have good designs, but they're not my favorites. I feel that they definitely designed them with the intention of you changing the base form out and making them a bit more interesting, because you are designing them the way you want them to look. And I'm okay with that, but at the same time, I did prefer, you know, Dawn, May, Lucas, dude had Ethan, Brendan. Actually, I thought I see Brendan had white hair. Again, I feel they did design them with the intention of changing them over time, which again, not a bad thing. But I do like that they are editing new designs because I do like the old characters. I like some of their outfits, and was thinking it'd be really cool to maybe wear one of those outfits. So we get that now. I am wondering about one thing when it comes to the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. This was something my editor brought up. What are they going to do about the Pokemon you have? Because if these are new areas, a bit in the same way where you go from Johto to Kanto in Soul Silver, what are they going to do to sort of regress you from using your pretty much probably level 100 teams by then? Your Eternatus, your Zacian and Zamazenta, your super juiced up Pokemon that you've been having for a couple months by now. And we were thinking, what if they more or less locked you out of the ability to use those Pokemon for the duration of the individual islands? Which I thought that would be pretty cool, because it would make sense for we are getting the Gmax forms of the Kanto starters, the Galarian starters are getting Gmax forms, and you're also getting Cubfu at the Isle of Armor. It would almost make sense that they deny you access to your old Pokemon until you beat and complete these areas. I'm not expecting them to do this because I feel a lot of people would not like this, and well, I spent all this time training these Pokemon and now you're telling me I can't use them, I have to go catch a whole new team. I can definitely understand that, and I can also understand, well, they probably should do this because you're going to have level 100, you're going to have legendaries. It's going to turn these things into a joke. Or one other thing that I did here was that we mentioned back and forth was maybe they sort of temporarily regress your levels. Just something to keep it so you don't come into this place with level 100s or even just like level 60 pluses and just steamroll everything. Because that would make these things just kind of not enjoyable. I like this. Again, I think both of these are great, and I do think there is the implication more is coming. Shield and Sword 2 probably isn't going to be a thing, which I am a little sad about because I remember thinking, oh, Hop's going to be the next professor or the next professor's assistant that does the introduction in the same way Chairman Rose did. Marnie's going to be the next Dark-type gym leader when you play Shield and Sword 2, because she's taking over for Pierce. Maybe there's a new champion in place of you and Leon in the next game. But it looks like that might not be happening, seeing as how, well, there's this expansion. They have said they have in the past done these, special versions. They haven't done expansions before. I am curious to see how they're going to be handling the future games, because, again, I wouldn't mind if we get a Shield and Sword 2, so long as it is pretty different. I like Shield and Sword as a game, but think another version of it with basically everything the same, with maybe some minimal changes here and there, wouldn't exactly be the greatest thing in the world to get for a whole new purchase price. Either way, I'm looking forward to these things, and definitely think it's going to make things more interesting. I mentioned the legendary raids before, and I have a good reason for this, at least the thing I'm bringing up now. We have set up a Discord server. This is going to be a channel Discord server as well as used for setting up legendary raid battles in Shield and Sword, creating teams specifically to beat the legendaries as best as possible, as quickly as possible, and beat specific Gmaxes, specific high priority raid Pokemon, and just to do this as efficiently and as quickly as possible. As well as just to stay in touch with the community, do various activities with the community such as battling, trading, and again, also raiding. Hope to see you guys there.